All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving deep into a really fascinating political communication theory called Project Alien Redaction. Now this is all about how withholding information can actually be way more powerful than showing it. So yeah, let's get right into it.
So the whole idea really kicks off with this simple contrast. You have older theories, something like Project Bluebeam, which imagine this massive top-down deception, like projecting a fake event in the sky for everyone to see. But Project Alien Redaction, it works in the complete opposite way. It's not about showing you something fake. It's about strategically holding back something that might be real, and in doing so, creating this powerful sense of mystery through all these carefully managed gaps in the story.
And honestly, this one line from the source material just perfectly captures the entire shift we're talking about today. It's a move away from a big broadcast spectacle, the sky as a movie screen, to what you could call an archival spectacle, where the file folder itself becomes this locked gate that everyone is staring at.
Now, the engine driving this entire theory is this concept of the negative signal. So, what is that? Well, a negative signal is basically any gap in information that's so obvious it becomes a story itself. Think about a delayed report, or an official website that's just a blank page, or when an official says, "Sorry, that's classified." It gives all of us something to analyze and speculate about, precisely because that final crucial piece of information is missing.
Okay, so how does a process like this even get started? Well, the theory argues it doesn't begin with aliens or spaceships. No, it starts with something very real and very human, a physical wound and the dusty old shelves of government archives. The very first step, what the theory calls Phase 0, is the assassination attempt on Donald Trump back in July of 2024. Now, the key political image that came out of that event wasn't just of a leader who was protected, but of a wounded survivor. And according to this theory, that visible wound on his ear, it becomes the first redaction surface. It's a physical mark that gives any later promise of revealing secrets a very personal, very bodily dimension.
And this right here just perfectly captures the visual metaphor at the very heart of the theory. The wound starts to function just like a black bar on a declassified document. It's a signifier of a violent, incomplete event, a story where something was almost taken away, leaving behind this visible trace that just begs you to ask questions.
So next, the theory claims the public was essentially trained to read these incomplete signals. And this supposedly happened in early 2025 with the order to declassify records on the assassinations of JFK, RFK, and Martin Luther King Jr. The real drama wasn't even the content of the files, it was the whole process, all the arguments over redactions, what to withhold, what's in the national interest. This basically taught everyone to see archives as a kind of battlefield. And by putting UAP files into that same bucket of serious federal secrets, they suddenly got this institutional weight they never had before. It primed the audience for the exact same kind of incomplete show.
So let's see how this whole method was actually put to the test. The theory proposes that the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, well, that wasn't some kind of distraction. It was actually a crucial dress rehearsal for the main event.
According to this theory, the Epstein case was just the perfect rehearsal. I mean, it proved that a partial release, one that's just full of blacked-out names and missing information, could create way more public buzz and speculation than total silence ever could. The focus totally shifted from what was revealed to what was hidden. Suddenly, a black bar over a name became even more provocative than the name itself. It was a masterclass in how to stage disclosure as this compelling, unfinished drama.
This slide here breaks down what the theory calls the core mechanism, controlled chain redaction. It's essentially a four-step process. First, an official release creates a visible absence. Second, that absence becomes a signal. Third, that signal triggers a massive public hunt for patterns. But here's the kicker. The end result isn't clarity or resolution. It's what the theory calls fog production, a process that's literally designed to deepen the mystery, not to solve it.
Okay, so at the method tested and the public trained, the focus could then pivot from archives here on Earth to the sky itself. The goal was to transform it from a place of folklore into a military data archive.
And a huge part of militarizing the sky was a shift in language. It was really clever. The old, almost folkloric language of UFOs and flying saucers was swapped out for the dry, bureaucratic language of the national security state. But this wasn't just about changing words. It was about changing the authority. Unidentified aerial phenomena and censored data, they just sound official, serious, and most importantly, classified.
So here's the crucial point. The whole phenomenon got completely reframed. We were no longer being encouraged to look for aliens. Instead, we were told to look for anomalies in military sensor data.
The sky itself was suddenly presented as a classified archive, a space just jam-packed with data points that were always just beyond our public reach. After the sky, the next surface for redaction became the human mouth. Think about it. High-level testimony from guys like the former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, or the whistleblower, David Grush, it was so powerful precisely because of what they couldn't say in public. The public hearing itself becomes a performance of limitation, where all the most important details are saved for the classified sessions. The witness's silence becomes just another kind of negative signal. And this brings us to who the theory says is the central political organizer, Donald Trump. The argument is that he didn't actually release any information at all. What he released was the promise of information. He basically created a gate for disclosure, and in doing so, made the anticipation of the event the main event itself. So when Trump announced in April 2026 that the first UAP file releases would be coming very, very soon, the phrase itself became the product. It established this rhythm of anticipation, this constant cadence of waiting. The focus was never on the delivery of facts. It was on the perpetual state of being just about to receive them.
So this all leads us to the final phase of the theory. This is where the entire infrastructure built for disclosure becomes a spectacle of pure, perfectly managed absence.
I mean, a perfect example of this was the registration of official domain names like alien.gov and aliens.gov. The government literally created the doorways, but then left them completely empty. The URL itself became a black bar, an official, government-sanctioned waiting room with absolutely nothing inside. And then, this whole thing was amplified by a request from Congress for 46 specific UAP video files. The file names, things like Iran, Syria, instant acceleration, they were circulated publicly, which built up all this intrigue. But the actual footage? It was delayed past the official deadline, with a clerical error given as the reason. The names did all the work before a single image ever had to appear. This slide really brings the whole final stage together, showing you 5 different surfaces where redaction is all happening at the same time. You've got the empty URL, the missed deadline, the promise of very soon. The point is, the public is no longer watching for an alien. Instead, they're watching a broken delivery chain, where every single missing piece just becomes another clue in a puzzle that has no solution. So the crucial point, and the one we want to leave you with, is this. Project Alien Redaction suggests a new and really potent form of political theater. It asks us to think about a strategy where the ultimate spectacle isn't some grand illusion, but is in fact nothing at all.